Hey everyone, Alan Quines here. Today we're going to show you what to do if your car won't start. Let's get right into it. There's nothing more frustrating than turning the key in your ignition and hearing nothing, or maybe just a sad clicking sound. Your plans for the day, whether it's getting to work, running errands, or heading out on a road trip, suddenly come to a screeching halt. It's a situation we've all faced, or will face, at some point, and it can leave you feeling stranded and helpless. But don't panic. More often than not, the culprit is something relatively simple that you can diagnose and potentially even fix yourself, right there in your driveway or parking spot with some basic know-how. So, in this video, we're going to walk you through a systematic, step-by-step troubleshooting guide to figure out why your car decided to take an unscheduled day off. We'll cover the most common reasons a car won't start, from the usual suspects like a dead battery, to slightly more involved issues like a grumpy starter motor or a fuel system that's not doing its job. We'll show you what to look for, what to listen for, and what simple tests you can perform. We're going to approach this logically, like a detective solving a case, eliminating possibilities one by one until we find the problem. Our goal here is to empower you with the knowledge to tackle this common problem, potentially saving you time, money, and the hassle of a tow truck. We'll cover the key areas you need to inspect and give you practical tips and tricks along the way. So grab your thinking cap, maybe a flashlight, and let's figure out why your car won't start and get you back on the road. We're going to go through 5 main areas to check, and by the end of this, you'll have a much clearer idea of what's going on under your hood. Alright, the very first place we're going to look, and the most common culprit by far when your car won't start, is the battery. Your car's battery is the heart of its electrical system, providing the crucial jolt of power needed to crank the engine over and get things moving. If this heart isn't beating strongly, well, your car isn't going anywhere. So, how do you know if your battery is the problem? You might experience a slow, labored crank when you turn the key, or your dashboard lights might be very dim or flicker. In more severe cases, you'll get absolutely nothing. No crank, no lights, just silence. These are all classic signs that your battery might be low on charge or has reached the end of its life. Don't just assume though, let's do some checks. First up, let's do a visual inspection. Pop the bonnet and locate your battery. You're looking for a few key things. Check the battery terminals. Those are the positive and negative posts where the cables connect. Are they covered in a fuzzy, greenish blue or white crusty substance? That's corrosion, folks, and it's a major barrier to electrical flow. Even if your battery has a good charge, heavy corrosion can prevent that power from reaching your starter. Also, take a look at the battery case itself. Is it bulging or leaking? That could indicate an overcharging issue or internal damage, meaning the battery is likely toast. Make sure the cable connections are tight. A loose connection can mimic a dead battery. Now, if the terminals are corroded, you'll want to clean them. Safety first, always. Disconnect the negative terminal first, then the positive. You can use a wire brush and a mixture of baking soda and water to neutralize and scrub away that gunk. Get them nice and shiny. Once they're clean and dry, reconnect the positive terminal first, then the negative. If, after cleaning, the car still doesn't start, or if there wasn't much corrosion to begin with, the next logical step is to try jump-starting your car. This will tell you definitively if a lack of battery power is the issue. If it fires up with a jump, your battery is either not holding a charge or your alternator isn't charging it properly. So you've checked your battery, it seems to have juice, or you've jump-started it, but the engine still isn't cranking over. The next component we need to investigate is the starter motor. The starter motor is a powerful little electric motor whose sole job is to turn the engine's flywheel, initiating the combustion process. If the battery is delivering power, but the starter isn't engaging or spinning the engine, then you've found a likely suspect. It's like having a strong arm ready to throw a ball, but the mechanism to actually launch it is broken. We need to listen carefully for clues when you turn the ignition key. The most common symptom of a failing starter motor is a distinct clicking sound when you turn the key to the start position. This isn't the rapid-fire clicking you might hear with a very low battery. Often it's a single, solid click each time you turn the key. This click is usually the sound of the starter solenoid, which is an electromagnet, trying to engage the starter drive gear with the engine's flywheel, but the motor itself isn't turning. Sometimes you might hear a series of clicks if the solenoid is trying repeatedly, but failing. If you hear this click, and your battery is known to be good, and the connections are clean and tight, the starter motor itself is very likely the problem. Other sounds, or lack thereof, can also point to the starter. You might hear a whirring or grinding noise. A whirring sound without the engine cranking could mean the starter motor is spinning, but the gear isn't engaging with the flywheel. A grinding noise could indicate that the starter gear and the flywheel teeth are not meshing correctly, or there's damage to either. In some cases, a bad starter won't make any noise at all, even with a good battery. An old school trick, though, use it with caution, and as a last resort is to tap the starter motor with a hammer or a long wrench while someone tries to crank the engine. Sometimes this can free up a stuck motor, but it's not a permanent fix. Chapter 3. Okay, so your battery is good, your starter seems to be trying, or at least it's not the obvious issue yet, but your engine cranks over and over without actually firing up and running. This often points us towards a problem with the fuel system. An engine needs three main things to run: spark, compression, and fuel. If one of these is missing, you're not going anywhere. The most embarrassingly simple reason, and trust me, it happens to the best of us, is an empty fuel tank. So, the very first thing to check here is your fuel gauge. Does it say empty? Don't always trust it blindly, especially if you suspect electrical issues, but it's your first port of call. If you're pretty sure you have fuel in the tank, the next thing to check is whether the fuel pump is doing its job. The fuel pump is an electric pump, usually located inside your fuel tank, that sends fuel from the tank up to your engine. In most cars, when you turn the ignition key to the on position, the position just before you crank the engine, you should hear a faint whirring or humming sound for a couple of seconds. This is the fuel pump priming the system, building up pressure. It's often a subtle sound, so you might need to listen carefully, perhaps with the radio off and windows up. Try cycling the key from off to on a few times. If you don't hear that distinct priming sound, your fuel pump might not be working. If you don't hear the pump, it could be a bad fuel pump, a blown fuse for the fuel pump. We'll get to fuses later. A faulty fuel pump relay, or even wiring issues. Another, less common on-the-spot check, but something to consider, is a clogged fuel filter. If the filter is severely blocked, it can restrict fuel flow to the engine. While diagnosing a clogged filter usually requires more tools, a non-operational fuel pump is a more common no-start cause. Remember, if you're ever working around fuel or suspect a fuel leak, exercise extreme caution, no sparks, no smoking, and ensure good ventilation as fuel vapors are highly flammable and dangerous. Chapter 4. Let's say your battery is charged, the starter is trying, and you think you're getting fuel, but when you turn the key, nothing happens on the dashboard. No lights, no chimes, nothing. Or maybe the lights flicker erratically. This could be a sign that your ignition switch itself is faulty. The ignition switch is more than just the place you stick your key. It's a critical electrical component that routes power to various systems in your car, including the dashboard, the engine control unit, ECU, the fuel pump, and the starter motor solenoid. If it's not making proper contact internally, it can create a whole host of no-start or intermittent starting problems. One of the key symptoms of a bad ignition switch is when you turn the key and absolutely nothing electrical seems to happen. Your dashboard lights, which should illuminate when the key is in the on or accessory position, remain dark. You might also find that the key feels unusually loose, is hard to turn, or gets stuck in certain positions. Sometimes the car might start but then immediately stall, or accessories like the radio or power windows work intermittently, or not at all. These are all clues that the electrical contacts within the switch are worn out, dirty, or damaged, preventing power from being distributed correctly. So what can you try if you suspect the ignition switch? One common trick is to gently jiggle the key while it's in the ignition and you're trying to start the car. Sometimes wiggling it can help those worn internal contacts make a temporary connection, allowing the car to start. If this works, it's a strong indicator the switch is on its way out and needs replacement. Another thing to try, if you have one, is your spare key. A very worn key might not be engaging the tumblers in the ignition cylinder correctly, which can sometimes affect the switch's operation, though it's more often the switch itself. If jiggling or a spare key doesn't help, and you have no power to the dash, the ignition switch becomes a prime suspect. Chapter 5. Our final checkpoint in this no-start diagnostic journey involves checking for blown fuses. Fuses are the unsung heroes of your car's electrical system. They are designed to be the weak link, protecting more expensive components like computers, motors, and sensors from damage caused by electrical overloads or short circuits. If a critical fuse, like one for the ignition system, fuel pump, or engine control unit, blows, it can definitely prevent your car from starting. It's like a circuit breaker in your house tripping. Power to that circuit is cut until the issue is resolved, and the breaker, or in this case fuse, is reset or replaced. To check your fuses, you'll first need to locate your car's fuse box, or sometimes fuse boxes. Most cars have at least two, one in the engine compartment and another inside the car, often under the dashboard on the driver's side or in the glove compartment. Your owner's manual is your best friend here. It will show you exactly where they are and usually provide a diagram of what each fuse controls. Once you've found the fuse box, look at the diagram on the fuse box cover or in the manual to identify fuses related to starting, ignition, fuel, and the ECU PCM. These are the ones we're most interested in for a no-start situation. Once you've identified the suspect fuses, you'll need to pull them out and inspect them. Most cars use blade-type fuses, and you can usually see a little metal strip inside the plastic housing. If that strip is broken or looks burnt, the fuse is blown and needs to be replaced. Always, and I mean always, replace a blown fuse with one of the exact same amperage rating. Using a higher amperage fuse can lead to wiring damage or even a fire. If you replace a fuse and it blows again immediately or soon after, it means there's an underlying electrical problem like a short circuit that needs to be found and fixed. Don't just keep replacing fuses, find the root cause. And there you have it. 5 steps to troubleshoot why your car won't start. We've covered checking your battery for power and corrosion, listening for clues from your starter motor, ensuring your fuel system is delivering the goods, inspecting the ignition switch for proper operation, and finally, looking for any critical blown fuses that might be stopping your engine in its tracks. Hopefully, by following these steps, you've been able to pinpoint the reason your car was giving you the silent treatment, or at least, narrow down the possibilities significantly. Remember, approaching these problems systematically is key. Sometimes the fix is as simple as cleaning a battery terminal or replacing a fuse, things you can definitely do yourself. Other times it might point to a more complex issue like a bad starter or fuel pump that might require more tools or expertise. But even then, having a good idea of what's wrong can save you a lot of diagnostic fees if you do need to take it to a mechanic. The goal is to take some of the mystery and frustration out of a no-start situation and give you the confidence to do some initial checks yourself. Don't be afraid to get your hands a little dirty, it's all part of the learning process. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more car maintenance tips. Your support really helps the channel out and allows us to keep making videos like this one. If you have any questions or your own no-start stories and fixes, drop them in the comments below. We love hearing from you guys and seeing the community help each other out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Stay safe out there and happy motoring.